Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to look at Trail of Lightning and some pop culture allusions that are in Trail of Lightning. The pop culture is a little bit misleading because there's a mythological allusion and a few other things that we'll be covering. Nonetheless, we're taking a look at allusions. Quick thing about the citations, you can see here where I got my definition of allusion. All pictures were taken from the web for educational purposes. For my students, please remember this is not a formal research paper. You need to cite your sources better than I do. The definition of allusion: it's a reference, typically brief, to a person, place, or thing, to another literary work frequently. And that literary work can include the Bible, the ancient myths, and an allusion assumes that the reader is familiar with the person, the place, the literary work. Allusions pack meaning. Allusions are a sort of shorthand that allow the writer to make the point and move on. The last sentence I think is important. If an allusion is obscure or misunderstood, it causes confusion, and because it causes confusion, it becomes less effective. In fact, it might become totally ineffective. Let's take a look at some. First of all, the reference to Hercules. I do not know a Hercules. Did he kill monsters? Now, obviously, my E is being a bit uh, facetious here. I'm fairly certain that he would know about Hercules and monster killing. Nonetheless, it's a quick reminder that a lot of cultures have monster killers, that a lot of cultures have famous monster killers, and Hercules in European culture is perhaps the most famous monster killer. He does 12 labors, he kills the Hydra of Lerna, he captures the Ermanthian boar, he kills the Nemean lion. All of those things, I think, are important elements just to remember that Nezgahani for the Navajo is the equivalent of Hercules or Heracles, if you want to go with the Greek, for European culture. The next one refers to Casablanca. Grace's All American is a bar. I've never seen a picture of Rick, Grace's husband. Casablanca is one of the most famous movies of all time. It's got some of the classic lines of all time. And Rick's Cafe American was the bar where everything happened. And Rick was played by Humphrey Bogart, was the lead character, was one of Bogart's greatest roles. All of you might be pretty young and maybe have never seen Casablanca, maybe never want to watch a black and white movie. Nonetheless, I think Roanhorse wants readers of a certain age, my age, and perhaps anybody who's a film buff, to think of Grace's All American as the same sort of place as Rick's Cafe American. This place where the French resistance was welcome, the place where Nazi soldiers walked in, and where there was this famous scene of dueling national anthems and Rick having a gambling room in the back and only getting busted when the authorities forced the rather corrupt local constabulary to shut it down. Uh, Grace's All American, Rick's Cafe American, same sort of establishment, same rules. Rick, the whole thing ties together. Again, talking about Grace's bar, the phrase abandon all hope is the beginning of the entrance to hell in Dante's Divine Comedy. And again, this idea of hope being abandoned, there's levels to the place. Each level is a thing that goes down a little bit deeper, and it's populated by a bunch of people that may have good qualities, but are certainly far from saints. And it's a reminder that in this book, there may be no pure good guys, and that everybody has a touch of, the rogue in them, for lack of a better word. Dante's Inferno was full of people from mythology, full of references to uh, historical people, and the idea of abandon all hope, and the idea of how hell is populated, I think, is a direct reference to what goes on in Grace's little sanctuary. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking. All of you, once again, are, I think, way too young to remember the Patrick, I just forgot his name, the commercials for Timex, where the watch could be strapped to a baseball bat, and the baseball player would hit 3 or 4 balls off the bat and the watch would still be working. The watch was attached to a downhill ski. The skier did the run, the watch would keep working. The tagline for Timex in the late 50s, early 60s, takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Again, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Some of you are way too young to get to know this illusion. I think the phrasing is important, but certainly the idea of Timex is key to um, what's going on here with this reference, this illusion. The Energizer Bunny, I think a lot of you have seen those commercials. They're still on. Walking into a regular commercial, interrupting what looks like a regular commercial with the drum, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. Again, references to things that, to commercials, to pop culture, are key to little bits of humor in this novel. And then some mixes in a Rambo meets Howdy Doody kind of way. Once again, I'm an old man. Howdy Doody is a reference to something that happened for the most part before my time. Red hair, freckles, this cowboy look, Rambo, First Blood, a whole bunch of movies, Sylvester Stallone, uh, knives and guns and blood. These two innocent, or not, one not so innocent, one very innocent thing, merging together into one character, gives us an idea of who the character is, gives the idea of appearing innocent, but having this violent undertone. All of that is what the illusion accomplishes here. And right here, once again, please let me emphasize, it's important not just to recognize the illusion, it's important to understand that the illusion makes a point, that the illusion does a job. And it's always important to ask, what job does this illusion do? How does this illusion set up what's going to follow? For example, the Energizer Bunny is a reference to Kai, takes a licking and keeps on ticking is a reference to Kai. Why does all of that matter? Why do these things matter? Analysis is always asking the question, why? And so, why is the illusion here? What does it accomplish? And then there's this whole list of allusions to Down the Rabbit Hole from Alice in Wonderland, Through the Wardrobe, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Both of those places taking you from our world, the current world, into a totally different world. So we know that Maggie and company are going from their world, which is weird enough, into a world that is far, far different. Alice in Wonderland is totally and completely bizarre. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, they run into the idea of where salvation can happen. It's not positive that they're going to make that, because The option of totally and completely bizarre versus a place where salvation can happen isn't clear, and especially when there's the gunfight at the OK Corral and there's the possibility of violence happening every second. The confusion they're feeling should be heightened by our recognition of the allusions to confusing places, violent places, places that take us into another world. For today's daily writing, it's going to be name a specific pop culture reference from the 21st century that everyone should know and explain why everyone should know it. And remember, if the allusion is obscure or misunderstood, it can lose effectiveness by confusing the reader. So make sure it's something that is popular enough that everybody should know. And in some ways, I apologize because I think it is far tougher to do a 21st century allusion that everyone would know than it was to do a 1940s with Casablanca, a 1950s with Howdy Doody, a 1980s with Rambo type of allusion when the pop culture landscape was not as spread out and when people had a larger shared bit of pop culture knowledge. We'll wrap it up right here. I hope everyone has a good day. Hope to see you all in the next class period.